Good morning and happy new year. It's 2020 and this is Dyslexia Coffee Talk. We're back. Oh God, we're back.
We're back. It was, yeah, not like completely ready necessarily because we're still in vacation mode, but happy
I'm on vacation. I'm finally on vacation. I didn't start my vacation till the 1st, so I'm on vacation now.
And I ended my vacation, so I'm not on vacation anymore. I'm just exiting vacation mode and entering back to, having to think a lot mode. Think in a different way, actually. But yes, it's we were just talking about the importance of recharging and taking care of ourselves, and how if we don't take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves, it's hard to do that for others.
Well, what's so funny is, I was just talking yesterday to a couple of my dyslexia friends. We got together and we're having a glass of wine, and we were talking about like the reach of the page, and I actually kind of love that it's really obvious that the parent advocates within the community, really kind of the community, takes breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Our reach completely fell off right when Christmas break began, and now that school is about to start, our reach is expanding again. But that happens over the summer as well. I mean, it's so clear that parents, families really take those breaks within school in order to just reconnect as families and recharge as parents. And that's a really wonderful thing. So I'm glad that we see that within the community, and it's inspirational because God knows I don't do that enough myself. So
yeah. Well, and we were talking too about, moms and dads who advocate for particularly moms and dads with special needs children, or, children that, might need a little bit more advocacy than others.
Mm-hmm.
That will drain you. And we were talking about, we hear sometimes from our, friends who are moms, and we'll say things like, well, I'm only a mom, and I don't know that, or, I'm only a mom. And we were talking about that, how we really want to celebrate moms and dads, and take away that word only.
Well, and it's
so important.
You need to take away the word only, because I feel like it's taking away from the value of the parent. I have 2 dogs that are trying to have a fight right in front of me right now. But it's taking away your value as a parent. And I don't think we should be doing that at all. The parent is everything, in the life of the child. The parent is the end all be all, really, for the vast majority of that child's life. Yes, the child grows up and becomes an adult and moves away from home and begins their own life and their own family. And typically they then become parents as well. But the parent is the central hub. It's the key to the family. The child wouldn't exist without the parent. The child's not going to learn without the parent. The child's not going to grow up without the parent.
Well, and it's interesting because everything that you're saying brings me to a conversation that I had over vacation that was kind of a deep conversation about the world today, and a lot of the violence and the anger and the hatred that we see in our world today. And we were saying, what do we do? How do we fix this? And it's a big question, and it's not something we can have an easy answer. But I said, we have to heal the children. When we heal the children, we can heal so much, I mean, when children are healed at an earlier level, at an earlier age than maybe, into adulthood, the possibilities for those children is, unbelievably endless. So it's, parents are so important, because they truly, these children, have a chance to change the world and make it a really wonderful thing.
And additionally to that, within advocacy itself, you need to embrace your parental rights and your parental power and your role as the parent. You can't, what I tell people, what I try to encourage people is, don't dismiss yourself because you're quote unquote just the parent. that needs to be the primary reason that you're there, and everybody needs to be celebrating it, because you know your child better than anybody else. You're your safe place for your child.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? You're going to learn it all better than everybody else sitting around the advocacy table, because you are the parent. You are
Mm-hmm.
only the mom. You are only the dad. So embrace it. Everybody needs to have like my mom. My mom, of all people. She was just a fierce, fierce, fierce creature. Is a fierce creature. She's not dead. um, but it was, you know, every time somebody ever kind of looked at her and said, well, who do you think you are? She's like, I'm her mom. Who the hell do you think you are?
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, it's funny because we I have to say, did you see, I'm going to kind of go off topic just for a second, but you see my cute mug? I don't know how to hold it. So from one of my students, I love this mug because I've seen it before, but now I have it to have my coffee in every morning. It makes me laugh. It says, I before E, except when your foreign neighbor Keith received 8 counterfeit beige sleighs from feisty caffeinated weightlifters. So weird. Talking about, and so the English language, you have to be able to laugh at it at times, um, especially with the students. And then this incredibly beautiful bracelet, I don't know how to, and in the inside it says, you make a difference, which touches me so deeply. And I can't take the bracelet off. I truly love it. And I love what it says. But what is interesting is that truly the students make a difference in my life. And more than I can, I mean, I know the statistics. I know the statistics for big brothers, big sisters. It takes one single most important adult in a child's life to change their direction of their life with resiliency. So I know I've made a difference statistically. But ultimately, these students make a difference every day in my life. And they teach me so much, and they give me a perspective that I could never have.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, and they have brilliance and creativity that this world needs, and compassion and empathy that this world needs. And with the guidance from only the moms and only the dads, you know, we have the future innovators of the world and the future, you know, leaders of the world. And that's what's exciting to me, is that with these parents advocating for their children, the possibilities of what these children are going to create and build for the future. So that's what I think is important about the moms and the dads out there, knowing their children and fighting for their children, because it's so exciting to think about what these young people do.
But it's the power of the parent as well. So I'm going to share a little bit of an email that I got yesterday from an advocate. She was encouraging what we're doing here at the Dyslexia Initiative, and she reached out, and this was just such a powerful email. But she said, decades ago, parents rallied to support their children who were not entitled to public education. Together, they made a significant change that hundreds of thousands of children benefit from today, over 40 years later. The very first federal law guaranteeing the right to an education, PL 94-142, was passed in 1975.
Yeah.
Without the efforts of those dedicated and determined parents, our children would still be ostracized and deemed ineducatable.
Mm.
So
it's powerful.
It is powerful. You know what? Wave that banner high. Yeah, I'm only a mom. Bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the best comment that came in too while we were talking about this. It also said, don't condescendingly stare at the mama bear either.
Yeah, well, yeah. And don't, it's an interesting one when people sitting around a table that spend a couple hours with your child presume to know everything about your child. And so don't be afraid to, you know, speak up and say, that's not the way I see my child. And and to say, you know, and especially if you don't feel that your child's needs are being met, you can say, I have a very different picture of my child than you do, and that concerns me, because ultimately, we put a meme, I shared a meme on Advocacy for Dyslexia the other day about how children act 300 times worse with their moms than they do with other people, or something like that.
Because you're the safe place.
Because it's a safe place, and because they can let go, and that's what a lot of kids do when they come home from school. A lot of them will come home and they'll just be, good little soldier students all day long and perform, and then they'll let go with mom. Or it'll be the opposite, and they'll let go all day at school, and they get home and they're relaxed with mom and dad, or caregiver, and they don't. So it's a totally different story at home and at school. So sometimes the behavior does not show up at home at all, but shows up at school, and as well as learning things. Sometimes I had a student the other day that I've been working with, and mom had to pull him out of public education because he was so anxious he couldn't learn. And it was actually cute the other day because we were working on proper nouns, and he was doing so well for so long, and he can really, really focus. But like anything else with any other person, he got a little bit anxious, and all of a sudden he couldn't focus anymore. But he was able to tell me and express to his mom that it was because he was afraid he was going to forget his Lego creation that he had in his head that he was working on before our 30-minute session. And because he was thinking so much about his Lego creation, he couldn't think about proper nouns. But in a school environment where you can't express that to your teacher, you're going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, that really plays into. I feel like we're getting off topic. Sorry.
No, it's
I don't
important.
even know what I'm talking about.
The theme that we said we were going to kind of follow today is year is half over. Now what? And one of the things we wanted to bring up and mention is the fact that the year is half over. So if you are suspecting that your child needs to be evaluated, and over the next couple of months, it's important really to get your evaluations, or your evaluation requests, in and submitted to the schools. Because at least in my state, more than anything else, we sort of use spring break as like the cutoff. Mm-hmm. If you can get your request for evaluation in prior to spring break, then the good chance you're going to have the results of the evaluation this school year. If you wait until after spring break, you may not get your evaluation results until the beginning of next school year. So now's the time to really sort of follow your mama bear gut, follow your papa bear gut. And if you think that your child needs to be evaluated, it's time to get those requests in.
If you just kind of think they need to be evaluated, because it doesn't hurt to request, and you can request anytime you want. And so even if they're saying, "Oh, I don't think so. I think your child's fine," and you feel like, "No, I think so," you go with that. And if they say, "Oh, well, we want to take them through our multi-tiered level systems of support," that's the new buzzword, by the way, for RTI. Multi-tiered systems of support, something like that, which they'll try to take your child through, and you say, "Nope, I'm going to formally request," we should put that on our website. "I would like to formally request a psychoeducational evaluation for my child. Please provide me with a consent form, within a reasonable amount of time." That's the legal speak. So once it's in writing, it trumps everything else. It trumps the RTI multi-systems levels tiered support thing. And, so it's just put it in writing. And if they deny it, then you have it in writing. They have to go ahead with the process. Once they send you that consent form, it's 60 days in some states, and it's 45 calendar days. And so it's either 60 calendar days or 45 school days.
So that's an important call out, because IDEA has a very specific timeline. If you're going to follow the IEP process, IDEA has a very specific timeline. States can elect to alter that timeline, but they may only shorten, they may not increase.
Right. So it essentially is 60 days.
Correct.
So no more than 60 days.
Right. And but you do need to understand specifically what it is for your state, because your state timeline may be shorter.
Right.
So if your state has actually passed a resolution that says that their timeline is 45 days, then you need to understand that that's what it is for your state. And if your school is taking longer than what your state resolution states, then you have an issue.
Right. But where it gets tricky is some states it's calendar days and some states it's school days.
Correct.
So if it's school days, they don't count the school holidays in that 45 days. And that's why it essentially just becomes 60 days.
Right.
So
which is why I'm saying get your request in before spring break.
Put your request in before spring break, because once the consent form is signed, they only have that 60 days. If they go over that, that's when you file a complaint with the Department of Ed. Now, school districts, the thing about anything with, when we're doing things like, when they have oversight and they're looking and they're auditing and that kind of thing, they're just looking for dates. So when the school district gets audited by the state, they take a couple IEPs. It's a random IEP poll, and they look at those IEPs to make sure the district is on timelines.
Keep talking. I'm right here.
If they're not on timelines, they get in trouble. So they're very funny about their timelines. They don't like to go over their timelines because that's when they actually get in trouble from the state. So usually they'll stay on it, but sometimes you need to stay on them for their timelines. And if they don't, you file a complaint with the Department of Ed, because that's what gets them, doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Definitely. And we have a template to request a full individual evaluation, or it's the evaluation under IDEA. We have that on our website. So it's a Word document. So all you have to do is download it. And
is that the request for assessment?
Yep.
Okay.
And all you have to, so the template, of course, covers an extremely wide gamut. Mm-hmm. So it's meant to be edited down to what you suspect for your individual child. But the template itself is really robust. But it's truly meant for you to break it down to what best suits your child. I have the 3 craziest dogs on the planet, and they are.
So we talked about something earlier that I wanted to bring up about that. So the second you have a hunch, you have a concern, you want to request the assessment, you request it. And the reason why this is important is for child find. So child find is a very important part of IDEA. And it is the obligation of the district to find the children who need the help. That is what child find is. And if they, neglect their child find and they don't find the children that need help, then, they have to be accountable for that. And that's usually when compensatory services are provided. Now, if you say in kindergarten, I'm concerned about my child, or first grade, and they say, not so much, we're not going to worry about it, we're not going to qualify your child, and then later on they do qualify, then they've neglected their child find obligation. Definitely. So if you don't request it, there is no child find obligation, because they can just say, oh, we didn't know, we couldn't tell, it's stealth dyslexic. But if you bring it up, early on, and then it turns out later they needed help, then it is a child find issue, and it's easier to get compensatory services that way.
Definitely. So you will find the request for evaluation in 2 different places on our website. And so the first one is if you go to the helps and guides section for parents, it's there. But if you also go to the world of dyslexia, there is one. I need to fix the phone view of this. But under the world of dyslexia, there's a page called 504 versus IDEA, excuse me. And the template is there as well. Oh, we've been building a ton of stuff for our website lately, trying to get a lot published.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about that too, because we really appreciate questions. Definitely. And ideas of things that people need support and resources with, because when we're asked those things or people say we need this, then it helps us to build what we're building. And so, yeah, we want to just be able to put a lot of resources out there so people aren't reinventing the wheel all the time and feeling so alone. So there was something, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, well, we'll come back to it.
So over the last week, you've seen the signs of dyslexia. You've seen stealth dyslexia. You've seen the signs of dyscalculia. We do not yet have a signs of dysgraphia. That will come soon enough. I had an opportunity this week where I could sort of create a whole lot of stuff and get it loaded onto our website. So I did that. But sorry, I was reading comments.
Please cover dyscalculia and Wooden math. I'm not familiar with Wooden math.
It's I think it's Chris. I think his first name is Christopher. It's Christopher James. I don't know. It's still early on Saturday morning for me, and please remember I'm on vacation still, so my brain isn't fully kicked into gear. Wooden Math is an incredible resource. Whether or not you have dyscalculia, Wooden Math is an incredible resource for helping your child navigate through math. I think he works for the Landmark School. If I'm not completely mistaken, I would have to Google him real fast, but he does work for a dyslexic-centric school on the Eastern Seaboard, and he has developed these incredible materials. He has his own website. And
shout out if he wants to come on our show and talk about it and calculate, because I was just, sorry to interrupt, but I was just thinking as you're talking, I'm dyscalculic, but I don't understand it on a level like I understand dyslexia and dysgraphia, because I'm so dyscalculic that I don't even go there. I just say I don't do math. So with tutoring and stuff, I don't go, so that would be something really wonderful too, because I would love to understand it better. Selfishly. Sorry.
I will definitely reach out to him, but his website is woodenmath.com, WOODIN math.com. He has tons of resources on his website that are free to download. He has worked with Nessie.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, that's wonderful.
Yeah. He's created
love Nessie.
A lot of material with Nessie. I had the privilege of seeing some of the rough drafts of the animations.
Are they doing something together? Like they're collaborating with something that they're, oh, wow, that's awesome.
So, well, and Tiffany James might correct me if she saw that, but at the Houston branch of the International Dyslexia Association spring conference, wasn't that a mouthful? He was one of the presenters there, and he did show some of the animations that they were working on with Nessie. They were still in rough draft form, so basically they were black and white animations,
right?
Very like stop motion kind of a thing. They weren't the fluid, but a lot of the voiceover part, a lot of that was complete. But he has collaborated with them, and they were really excited about both sides. Nessie and Wooden were both really excited about getting that loaded.
I have to get something really fast. I'll be right back.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is Saturday morning, and we are still technically on vacation, but we are doing our best.
Something, and it was like a segue to that, because I love the company Nessie. I just have to give a shout out. I just do, because this book right here, okay, is truly the best book I've ever seen for children and adults to just I know, right? To understand dyslexia, like really understand it, and to understand the good things, to understand the processing, so the gifts, the people that, people who might bend, the different professions, just so many great things about this book. The illustrations are just fun and engaging. My students love it. They feel like, oh my gosh, I understand. This is exciting. They become proud of their dyslexia. And Mike James, they're coming out, they have a movie, which I think is released in some places already.
I think I think the main distribution is Sundance, if my memory serves correctly. Isn't the Sundance Festival coming up this month, if not beginning?
Okay, so it's soon, and I can't wait till I get an opportunity to see it. It was going to be called Outcast, and now it's called Michael, and it's about Mike James, his childhood and his life with dyslexia in school. And he wrote the book, this book, Dyslexia Explained. And the really, truly beautiful thing that just touches my heart is that he wrote the book and said he said, I will only write this book, or whatever it was, that I must have 100% of the proceeds from this book go to the foundation that helps kids who couldn't normally get tutoring. So I just love that. I love the book so much, and I love that 100% of the proceeds go to such a wonderful foundation. And I just really just want to support that, and also, tell people about the foundation, but also let people know about the book. So the only way to get the book in the United States, which is still brilliant, is to give a donation to the foundation. So if anyone's interested in getting the book, contact Nessie. And then the other thing I have to say about Nessie is I love their computer program. It is a brilliant program that also assesses the children as they go. So, a lot of programs do, but not on the level that Nessie does. And as it assesses them, if they don't have a certain skill, it keeps going back and teaching them until they've mastered it. And they keep working on making sure that assessment piece is strong. And to me, that is one of the best parts about the Nessie program. And then one last thing, to find out, it's only $12 a month to have a Nessie subscription. So when I found that out, like the cost of it is so affordable. So it's just something to explore for people who want additional supplemental support in, building those phonological awareness and phonemic awareness skills. Just a huge supporter of their program. And
so the Sundance Film Festival starts on Thursday, January 23rd. So hopefully we will see Michael. I would love personally to be able to show Michael to part of our followers, if not all of our followers, because I think that would be just such a wonderful opportunity. So that's coming, and that's exciting. I can't wait to see the film.
Well, and we're hoping to have Tiffany on Coffee Talk really soon too. So
yeah, Tiffany, you didn't know that, but
she and I talked a little bit. We've talked. She knows. We just haven't picked a date yet.
Okay. Just as long as you're not like.
No. Tiffany is like, no, we've talked about her being on. Yeah, no. That wasn't just to like, oh yeah. No, really.
We've already done Chris. Right.
No. She and I have talked about it.
Oh my God, you were too funny for color.
Yeah, everybody can tell we don't plan this. So,
but you said something, and that reminded me of something else that we wanted to talk about, and now we've kind of gone down this tangent. I'm trying to remember. That's what it was. So, you were talking about Nessie, and you said the word program. And we've been talking a lot on our last few coffee talks specifically about programs versus goals. But you wanted to talk a little bit more about that this morning.
Yes. So a couple really important things. Programs should never be written into goals.
Correct.
So I see goals all the time that say the student will progress through levels of a program. The problem with that, there's a lot of problems with that, but let's just start at the beginning. So let's say we have untrained people providing the program. That's a problem. So they can progress through levels with an untrained person and not progress. Let's say we have a program that, sometimes they don't even have all the parts. We have programs that don't work for some kids that work for other kids. So there's so many different reasons why a program might not meet the needs of a child, and why writing it in as a goal doesn't meet the needs of a child. So one of my special ed directors that I used to work for used to say, goals drive IEPs. So if we think about it that way, goals drive IEPs. So it's not the label. This is really important too, because I was asked a question this morning that has to do with this. So let's say somebody says, okay, the first question is, what's the difference between a disability and a disorder? So a disorder, something is disordered, something's not working, right? So let's say you have disordered language. You can remediate a disorder, and then you don't have the disordered whatever anymore. A disability, it can be because for our kids, they have a brain difference. They don't even have a disability. The only reason why they have a disability is because the system gives them a disability. The disability for dyslexia is that they don't fit into the box, right? So put them in a different box, they don't have a disability.
Mhm.
They just have a different brain.
Right. But ignored dyslexia can become a disability as an adult because.
Exactly. Oh, yes. So the
Yeah.
disability, and yes, exactly. And it can get more extreme
Right.
if you don't have the support.
Right.
However, so and then there's the educational diagnosis and the medical diagnosis, right? So if you have a medical diagnosis, you qualify for a 504. If you have an educational diagnosis, you qualify for an IEP, and that's important.
Hmm.
But whether the child is disordered or has a disability just depends on the situation, kind of, if that makes sense. So because again, disorders can be remediated, some disorders, and a disability, it depends. If you have a disability because you have a paralyzed arm, that's a disability you're going to have regardless of the situation. But for our kids, they're disabled because the system makes them disabled. They're disabled in that education system.
Right.
So if we're really focusing on a label for a disability that they don't even have, which is, but we have to give a label to get services. So that's the catch-22, right? So we have to say that they have something in order to qualify. There's 13 eligibility qualifying criteria, right? So
Right.
one of them is specific learning disability.
Right.
So a lot of things fall under specific learning disability. And all specific learning disability really means is that your intelligence is here and you're performing here. So whether or not you are dyslexic and your intelligence is here and you're performing here, or you're dyscalculic and that's the situation, or you're autistic, or whether, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we recognize what's missing and then we address it, right? So if we know that you are struggling with phonological awareness skills that are affecting, that are presenting it as dyslexia and dysgraphia, then we would write a goal for phonological awareness skills. So because that is the area, so it doesn't really matter what it's called that you have. It matters that you have this deficit and we need to remediate it or fill it, or help with that. So goals drive IEPs. So let's say you are just dyslexic, and let's say you struggle with phonological awareness. You need phonological awareness goals. You don't need that you'll move through programs, because then we have no accountability that you will actually meet those goals.
Right.
So I have right now a district paying for me to provide compensatory services for a student who, for 7 years, out of 7 years, there were at least 5 years where they just didn't meet goals. So they would have a goal, like a syllable goal, and student will, segment words in, or will count syllables in words, and end of the year, didn't meet the goal. So you would think the next year they would write the same goal to make sure the student would meet it. No. So then we're wondering why he's in 6th grade reading 5 grade levels behind. So I don't wonder, they wonder. Then we look at it and we say, oh, look, we don't have rhyming, we don't have syllables, we don't have segmentation. Let's go back and do that. But now he's in 7th grade and you can't possibly do that in a school day. So now I have to do it outside of the school day. And the poor student shouldn't have to go through that. So, but the point is they didn't have, the goals weren't being met, the goals weren't appropriate. So now, and this was funny because in this school district, when I went in the first time, this special ed director, who's also a school psychologist, says any more than 3 goals is excessive. And I said, excuse me? And she goes, we can't write any more than 3 goals. And I was like, well, goals are based on need. And if this student has more than 3 goals worth of need, they need more goals. So long story short, we fought the district for a while. Now they're having trainings with their staff on, yeah, you should probably be writing more goals. But the point is that the goals should be based on the student's need.
Right. So two points, or not 2 points, but two things based on what you were saying. And the first one is something that doctors Sally and Bennett Shaywitz say, which is saying specific learning disability is like saying you have a communicable disease. Saying dyslexia is akin to saying you have strep throat. So while specific learning disability is one of the 13 criteria under IDEA to qualify for an IEP, your documentation needs to go further and specifically state dyslexia. That's a very important thing that you need to have within the document itself.
I disagree, I have to say. And the reason why is because I worked in education for 17 years. And I disagree on the basis of knowing how services are provided. And people don't provide services differently if the kid is autistic, if he's dyslexic, if he's dyslexic.
No, they don't. But so a lot of the community, though, feels strongly they want the word dyslexia because they want dyslexia acknowledged more than anything else. From the Bennett's, or Bennett, Bennett is his first name. From the Shaywitz's perspective, it's because of their advocacy in the dyslexia community as well. It's them trying to get dyslexia more recognized than it is.
And that I agree with.
Right.
What I don't agree with is that it matters, I guess, is my point. And so, and why I say that is because we have to get these kids these services that they need that are appropriate. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of people who talk about a lot of things about education that are not immersed in education. So in not immersed in the everyday public education, you know, and so it in theory, that's a brilliant idea. And I believe in that. I believe in recognizing it and recognizing that it's a difference and we have many gifts. But in all reality, we're talking about the nitty gritty, just getting the kids what they need. And if we're focusing too much on names and labels and all of that stuff, we're missing what they really need. So when we're fighting for a name, we're missing out on the fact that they need all of these goals met, and that when they get these goals met, they're actually going to progress, regardless of what it's called.
And I can definitely see your point. I would just argue back that it's, and we're not arguing.
No. And you know me. I feel like I will express my opinion, and it may not always be what everybody thinks, or I may not follow science, and it may not follow and it's not based on, it's just based on, I've been in there, I've been in it, and I know that how to get the best services for the kids right now. I know in utopia, we want it all to be that way, but right now, if we just want to get the kids what they need, we're focusing on the wrong things. So yeah, no, we love to have these debates.
Definitely. But the point that I was going to make is just purely that, what I'm faced with more than anything is in advocating for my own child. So they say specific learning disability, but because they don't understand dyslexia, they don't understand the goals that he needs. So they're trying to check off these boxes and create these goals that are not appropriate for my child because they don't understand dyslexia, and they don't understand the components of dyslexia, and they don't understand his specific weaknesses, and they don't understand his strengths, and they don't understand where they need to be working versus where they need to not be working.
But they're still not going to understand it if we call it dyslexia. They're not, because they're not there yet.
They're not there yet, but that's part of where we need to get them. But that also goes back to my second point, which is what you were saying earlier about writing specific programs into the goals themselves. So one of our co-founders is fighting this issue right now at this very moment because she's done an incredible job advocating for her child. But because of the lack of knowledge that exists in what she's trying to deal with, it's, a teacher in the district called her and said, "Isn't it fantastic? Your child is almost done with this program. It's great. And because he's done with this program, he doesn't need any more services." And she said, "Excuse me? First of all, you don't get to make that decision outside of an IEP meeting. And second of all, that's a program. You're checking off boxes, basically. You're not actually understanding whether or not my child is mastering this material, and you're not ensuring that he is mastering so that he can go forward. And the program isn't written into any of his goals. And so you've really missed the boat here, and we're going back and we're talking about it, period.
Yeah. No, and I want to, I see a good question here, and I want to clarify, because I don't think I made myself clear, because I agree and I disagree. So what I'm trying to say is that I agree. We should, I hear the question
Well,
is,
what's the question?
sorry, the question is, identifying a child with dyslexia is not going to prevent them from getting the services they need. It should help better target their needs. Yes, if people knew anything about dyslexia, that would be the case. So I'm not saying that I don't agree with that. What I'm saying is, let's have it be two different issues. Let's not fight the fight for the label of dyslexia while we're trying to get the goals, appropriate goals written for the student to have them make progress. Does that make sense? So if you can get dyslexia and appropriate goals, good, great, go for it. And let's all strive for that being our goal. However, if the battle becomes whether or not we're going to call it dyslexia, or whether or not we're going to fight for an evidence-based program, we always want to make sure that the goals are our number one priority, because the goals are the only thing where you have, and this is why it's important to me. It's hard because I can see all sides and I can see the importance of all the issues. But in the very critical moment of right now, when we're trying to get our children and our students what they need, we need to hold tight that idea of the goals first, always the goals first.
Right.
Then the fight can be the other things, because
you're trying to make the point of you're trying to make the point of that there's multiple battlefronts, and you need to pick which battle is the most important and which ones. They're very important. Let's not sacrifice the fact that they're very important, but what's the most important one? And you're right. Having the right goals is the most important thing.
This is why I love this woman, because she can get my jumbled thoughts and make them make sense. And that's why sometimes we have these wonderful conversations and then she writes these brilliant pieces, because I'm like, explain it for me, because she knows what I'm trying to say. Exactly. So these are all very important issues. And but if we're
don't lose the fight for the goals because you're trying to get the word dyslexia within the document itself. If you can get both, get both. Absolutely go after both, because the documents do need to say dyslexia on it, but don't sacrifice the goals for the word dyslexia on a document. Get the goals and get the word, but don't sacrifice the goals for the word.
And if you wanted to say evidence-based program, like if you're fighting to have your student work with Wilson or something, you can have that written into the services page. The services page would say the student will be provided with Wilson to meet their, free and appropriate education. It should not be written into goals. And this is why it's important. So when I was involved in the due process case in Irvine that the parent now receives private school, it all came down to the goals. It always comes down to the goals. In the case right now, a couple cases where I'm being paid by districts for compensatory, it comes down to the goals. The goals are the only area where we have the accountability to say, oops, you wrote this goal, you didn't meet it, you didn't write it again. Oops, you wrote this goal, but this goal was not appropriate for this student's need. It's the only like black and white, cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
If you say, oh, look, your goal said that the student was going to progress through Wilson's, and then the student progresses through Wilson's, but doesn't progress in reading and writing and spelling, their accountability, they're fine. They didn't do anything wrong. They told you they were going to provide you with this program, but there wasn't the accountability for the actual skill being met. So there's just so many different issues. And I think that we want to make sure that people are educated. And that's why we want to use the name dyslexia. I mean, we want to use dyslexia so that people are aware of it and they start to become educated, right? And then we want to make sure that the goals are being met and the students' needs are being met. And then we're encouraging evidence-based programs, because right now they're not doing anything because the knowledge base isn't there.
Right.
So, but the only thing that's going to get your student to progress and to have accountability and get compensatory services later is the goals.
Right. So one question real quick that came up is, Is it better to have the box checked dyslexia slash specific learning disability or specific learning disability solely because the IEP form has both description boxes when your child is diagnosed with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia? So what I would say is, first of all, the form that your district is using is not a standard federal form that everybody's using across the board in every district in every state across the country. There's leeway kind of in it, and it's not leeway from a legal perspective. It's just in, how they've created the form and what the template looks like. Nobody's template looks the same. So if you have a district that specifically has a checkbox that says dyslexia slash specific learning disability, get it checked. Get them to write in dysgraphia and dyspraxia, I would say, because if they've got dyslexia slash specific learning disability, obviously they're already open to that conversation. A lot of places just have specific learning disability, and then they may have a couple of boxes underneath that to state specifically what the learning disability may be. Like, if I landed on the right file, I did. Yay. So like my child's specifically says specific learning disability. They wrote in dyslexia, but they said, I'm not landing on the thing I want to land on. But then it says what his weaknesses are. So is it reading fluency? Is it writing fluency? But those are the checkboxes underneath that. So that's where you can kind of get some goal-driven sort of stuff. I mean, it's not the greatest form on the planet, but
Well, to be honest, when you're a professional in the school district and you have 50 kids on your IEP, on your caseload, or you have 20 kids on your caseload, and in just all reality, people go right to the goals. They're not looking at eligibility criteria. They're not, half the time people barely look at that stuff. They look at, what do I need to work on? Where do I need to get this kid going? So it's another reason why it's so important that we have appropriate goals. And I go into IEPs all the time where Nikki Pratt commented, Pratty, I'm sorry, I read it too fast. And I hope I'm saying that right, Nikki. It's probably Prady. I don't know. So much phonemic awareness proficiency gets missed because of this. And I'm thinking she's talking about because goals aren't met. I had a student, 7th grader, still reading at the 1st grade level. And one of the goals that they had that they never met, that they never rewrote, was for rhyming.
right.
So, such a critical phonological awareness skill.
So back to what I was saying, so at least in my state, in my district, the template that they have says, it's purely a checkbox it's not even a checkbox. It meets eligibility criteria for, and then they can have up to 13 checkboxes. And the primary disability happens to be 8, specific learning disability. And then because they checked 8, specific learning disability, a subset of boxes appeared. That's what are the SLD areas? Oral expression, listening comprehension, written expression, reading fluency skills, reading comprehension, mathematics problem solving, basic reading skills, and mathematics calculation. So
right. And
my point is that every district in every state is going to have a different template. So that's a difficult question to answer, but if you've got a template where one of the checkboxes says dyslexia / specific learning disability, go for it and get everything else named.
Yeah. So I encourage, and some districts are lovely, they take the IEE that says they have an outside diagnosis of dyslexia and they write in dyslexia, and they don't. So it's one of those things where another thing that one of my special ed directors used to say that was so powerful was, are you going to die on that hill? Is that the hill you're going to die on? Right. So I think it's something we all want to work towards, creating more awareness, having more education, having people understand it, something to be proud to say, I'm dyslexic. But to die on that hill when the goal hill is the hill you want to die on. So, and then Marveline Bush says, so who knows, identifies what the proper goals are? So great question. So we are working really hard at Dyslexia Initiative to really help with that. And this is what we're trying to do. So we have every leader. How many leaders do we have now?
Oh God, don't ask me that question right off the bat.
I'm sorry, totally put you on the spot.
That's a prep question for.
We have more than 10, right? We have like more than just, yeah. Okay. We have quite a few. We have a lot. So we have quite a few states represented. What we're trying to get, and if anyone out there wants to help us, the core standards for each state, core curriculum standards, because truly, if you can go into the core curriculum standards of that state and see what skills your student doesn't have, then it's really easy to write goals. So I have California here, and it's interesting because so if you look at just kindergarten, they're required to blend vowel consonant sounds orally or make words or syllables, things that sometimes my kids don't have in 5th grade, right? So it's easy to say, and we can talk about how to assess for certain skills too at another point. But some of these things are, for instance, in 2nd grade, it is a core standard that students know prepositions, right? I have every student I've ever gotten from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, none of them know prepositions. Okay. And if you don't know prepositions, how can you know prepositional phrase? And when students come to me again at all of these grades, they know nouns, but they don't know adjectives. If you don't know adjectives, how do you know adjective clause? So it's like they build everything builds on itself, and yet we're not going back and checking to see if these kids have these skills, but they're all part of core standards. So at the end of kindergarten, are they checking to make sure they have all the kindergarten standards? One of them is that students will count the syllables in words appropriately. That's a kindergarten standard. Most of my kids that are falling apart in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade cannot break words or cannot count the syllables appropriately in words. That's a kindergarten standard. So that's an easy goal to say this absolutely needs to be written. This absolutely needs to be met. And the benefit of having the core standards is we can go to the team and say, hey, I noticed they don't have this kindergarten standard. What do you guys think? Should we write a goal? Nobody's going to say no. So that is what's going to help guide us. And definitely to those out there, if you have a concern and need a little bit of help writing, figuring out how to write that into goals, we can help with that too. I mean, we can start to put, if we have the questions, we can start to formulate the resources.
Right.
Definitely. And by me, I mean I and you.
About to say, don't make more work for me.
I know. On that one, I meant me. But yeah, I could see the look on your face like, what are you going to have me do now? No, that's me. I can do that. But yeah, so I think that because goals are quite simple, actually. There's, if they don't have the phonological skills, then they need goals written for that.
So I think it's funny that you say that goals are quite simple, because goals are sort of, the golden unicorn that nobody can catch.
Well, it's my
wherever that expression goes. Exactly. We here at the Dyslexia Initiative, I think we need to do a lot more work in helping people understand how to write goals and what good goals look like versus what bad goals look like, and how, like I just wrote a 4-part blog piece on my own personal blog about this latest round of ARDS with my child, because the goals are set at 70%, and, and they're like, well, he's only doing 34% now. And I'm like, this is a crap goal. And here's why it's a crap goal. And
well, and by the way, when they say, oh, let's say they're only doing 5%. That's not what determines how far they can get. I hate when we do that.
Let's not fall down that rabbit hole too now.
Okay. But seriously, it should always be 80%. And yeah, that's another thing about the goals as well. Well, but 80% is what we consider mastery, because
and we're not going to fall down that rabbit hole either. I disagree with you, but we're not going to fall down that rabbit hole.
And I'm just saying, based on it's good enough to get that at this point because of education at 80%, that's considered mastery. But it could be higher. I'd like it to be higher as well. But I know. So again, reality, utopia. We're like here and here. So Oh boy. But for goals, it is my wheelhouse. I've probably sat in on 3,500 IEPs, at least in my career. I've written thousands and thousands of goals. Most of the time when I go into IEPs, the goals are horrible and I have to rewrite them. And the thing is they don't always look horrible. And sometimes they have like, they're all technically written and all that stuff, but ultimately they're not meeting the needs that the child actually has. Usually, if the child is struggling with decoding, you get lots of comprehension goals because they can measure that. So they can say, oh, work on figurative language, because they can work on figurative language and they'll just keep working on figurative language for as long as they can until those sort of things, the abstract, whatever. But until children can decode, comprehension is not going to happen. So if the student is struggling with decoding, comprehension goals really shouldn't be there until there's appropriate decoding goals.
I agree. So 55 minutes.
Oh my gosh, really? Yeah, we got to go.
And my intention was truly to keep this to 20 because I'm on vacation.
we got together before and talked about what we were going to talk about. And Ashley even said before we went on, she said, I don't think we're probably even going to end up talking about half the stuff we said. And it's exactly like you said. Yeah. But it's true. I look forward. This is the only time I get to see Ashley. And yeah, this is fun for us.
We talk a lot, but we actually like physically see each other physically over the internet, see each other.
The closest we get, I know, to real life, in person. So, but we really welcome, somebody said it might be helpful and for your consideration, I created a website with tests, our office developed for parents to use. Wow. I love that. So I'm assuming that means like for phonological skills and stuff, that would be ideal. Because that's what I was saying. We can, and maybe we do a workshop or something on helping parents assess their students with the appropriate tools or something.
Well, and we've got a lot in the works. And one of the things we wanted to say again, or we kind of said it, but we wanted to re-stress is a big thing that we're trying to do is to create as many resources as we can for parents and making it accessible for you on our website. So we've got a lot of information that's already out there. I almost can't write fast enough or build fast enough, but I do have a full-time job on top of this. So I don't do this full-time, but none of our leaders.
You're a machine. I don't know how she does it. Seriously. You're a machine. You can create. It would take me months to put out what you do. I'm in awe of you. And I mean, granted, do have dysgraphia, but no, it's truly remarkable how quickly you get these resources out.
Well, thank you. But we have a lot specifically in works right now. The dyscalculus sheet that we put out yesterday, we will load to our website at some point over the next week. We have resources for teachers that we're working on. I will build a fact sheet on dysgraphia as well. We are building an advocacy toolkit for parents. I loaded this past week a 504 versus IDEA page that I mentioned earlier, but that page is live and it's out there. It's got a lot of very helpful information on it. If we are building presentations that parents can download and give to their school boards, but a whole lot of tools, a whole lot of different things. If we love suggestions as you're traveling this journey yourself, if you see something that you wish that we had on our website, but we don't, drop us a message through Facebook or through info@thedyslexiainitiative.org is our email address, or you can message us. I think you can message us through our website, but I'm not that technically savvy, so I'm not going to talk about that. But we've got a lot coming.
Who's our next guest? Can we say? Can we say who our next guest is?
I want to confirm first.
Okay.
We do have on this. No, we can go ahead and say it. We do have on the schedule, and I just need to confirm. But next week, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, we will have Dean Bragonier of Noticeability. His TED Talk is on our website as well. We have a a page on our website that's, videos we love.
Watch
So
his TED Talk, because it truly, it helps understand the brain. And I just wanted to say that because it is a brain difference. And that's why we want to be careful about, when we're saying we want the dyslexia disability criteria, we do and we don't, because we want to say we're dyslexic. We have beautiful, different brains,
right.
not we're disabled with dyslexia, right?
Right.
So, and he'll talk about the beautiful brain difference.
Definitely. And the direction that we're taking this month is per the request of specifically from one of our leaders, Lindy. Lindy has, I'm not sure if both of Lindy's children are dyslexic or if just one of Lindy's children are dyslexic. Sorry, Lindy, that I don't actually know that fact off the top of my head this morning. But Lindy had asked us to focus on self-advocacy and helping to bolster the spirit of the child. And so we reached out to Dean and we asked him if he would come on Coffee Talk, and he said yes. And after Dean, we'll have Jake Sussman.
And I was going to say, he has an incredible mentorship program. So he is perfect for that.
If you don't know who Jake Sussman is, simply go onto Facebook or the internet and type in The Forgotten Child and watch his video. It's very powerful, but we are going to be...
Let's post that today too. We'll post both, or I'll post it or something, but yeah.
I've house guests in a little while, so I'm
yeah, I keep saying, let's do that. And the look on her face is like, what do you want me to do? I'm working today. I got it. All right, wait, it's Saturday. See, I don't even know what day it is anymore. One of these days we'll get it up there. No, really good. But no, we've got a lot of really, and I have to say really quickly, because I know that there's so many people that just adore her and her knowledge, but Faith's going to come back on too. So
we don't have that date booked yet, but we're talking to Faith and Marion Waldman.
And Marion, yeah.
Of Teach My Kid to Read and their initiatives. Per the request here that we talked about earlier today, I will reach out to Chris Wooden. No promises there, but I will reach out to Chris Wooden. You're talking to Tiffany.
I didn't dream that I talked to Tiffany. I know I did.
Does Tiffany know you talked to Tiffany?
I hope so. I'm just kidding. I wanted to really quickly address a comment we just had here so Angie says, because this is really important, she said, our IEP is written with good goals, although the goals are never being met and the student is not being taught with OG program. Therefore, he is in 3rd grade, still reading at the beginning of 1st grade level. How do we address this problem? Okay, so this is really important. I'm going to reach out to Angie and get more specifics on her case, and then when you have time on your hands, we're going to come up with a way to kind of address this, because this is a huge, and maybe we address it the next time we don't have a guest on Coffee Talk or something, but because that's when you get compensatory services, when you can show, but again, the goals can look good, but they're not going to give you the accountability you need. So if the goals are vague and it's not really clear what they're meeting, it's easy to meet them. So that's important too.
So, but yeah, we're going to wrap up.
I know.
We're going to wrap up.
I just wanted to address that because I'm going to, that's an important issue, because I think that, that's just, to summarize what we've been talking about today. And Angie, I'll reach out to you because I think her question will also help a lot of other people.
Definitely. So I'm really glad that you're going to reach out to Angie. Angie, I hope you're ready for Enid. So,
what does that mean?
Sorry. Enid's awesome. You're going to love her, Angie. I promise. Anyway, so we're going to wrapping up, definitely wrapping up. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year. Welcome to the new decade. I love all the memes that are calling it the Roaring 20s. Hopefully the Roaring 20s aren't followed by, another disastrous 30s, but
oh gosh,
it's a new year. It's a chance. There's a lot of really positive buzz happening in the community. There's a lot of really great things happening in the community. I love the fact that, the anti-science of reading people are really on the ropes and they're showing it. And they're sort of getting their butts kicked by the science of reading community. But we do profoundly believe that change will happen with parents. Parents are really the ones that are going to drive this home. We are the ones that are going to change education for our kids. So don't give up. Everybody out there that's just a mom, it's just a dad. hold that banner high. Seriously, we're going to change the world. I
Well,
promise.
on that note too, though, don't be afraid to file complaints with the Department of Ed. Nobody does it. So
Yeah.
the more people start filing complaints with the Department of Ed, the more things are going to change. And the Department of Ed, they're lovely people who will help walk you through the process. So don't be afraid to speak up to them, because they're there to help you. And I don't think enough people realize that that's a resource.
Definitely. And don't forget to go to our website and sign up as a subscriber to our website. We've got a lot of material that's going to start coming out. So you won't want to miss out on that material. We won't necessarily publish everything that we do on Facebook. So following our website is going to be really important. We don't sell information. We don't buy information. We don't do anything. That information is private. We will always keep it private. But remember to go out there and subscribe. It's on our homepage and it's really easy to do. So again, the dyslexiainitiative.org. And with that, say goodbye, Enid.
We really are leaving. Bye.
Y'all have a good week.